Hey everyone, welcome back, and this is going to be my gestational diabetes update. So let's just start. A little background. I have two boys right now, and I am pregnant with boy number 3. Pregnancy number 1. I was absolutely huge, like super huge. By the time of birth, I think I was almost like 240 something pounds. A lot of it was in my belly. There was baby who was huge. He was born 9 pounds, 15 ounces. There was also a ton of fluid surrounding him. Many different pockets of fluid. A little background on the first pregnancy. I had my glucose test with him. It came back fine. I went on with my pregnancy thinking that I did not have gestational diabetes. As I got to the later part of my pregnancy is when they began to notice that there was a few pockets of fluid surrounding him. So because of that, I ended up having to have a lot more ultrasounds so they could keep an eye on them, make sure the pockets weren't increasing in size too much. There was never any talk of if I had gestational diabetes. Looking back at that now, I am pretty sure that I probably was like borderline gestational diabetic, and maybe they just didn't think it was important enough to tell me. Maybe they thought it wasn't going to become that, or I don't know what the case is, but looking back, I'm almost positive that I had gestational diabetes with him. I will guarantee you that that's probably what happened, that I passed the test around the 24-week mark, but then weeks later, I ate probably not the best, and I probably ended up developing it. And I am pretty sure I have read that gestational diabetes causes increases of fluid around the baby, and that's what my baby had. We had a few different pockets of fluid surrounding him. Now, on to my second pregnancy. I had the glucose test with him around the same time, which is around the 20 to 24th week mark, and I failed that one. That was devastating to me. That was really, I don't know, I thought it was like the end of the world. I didn't really know what to expect either. When they told me, I was so upset. I cried, and I was just so sad. So that sucked. So as I started to research it online, and then the information I would receive from my doctor, and going to the gestational diabetic clinic to learn all about that there, get my blood sugar monitor, and to be taught all about the diet plan that you should be following. After going through that, towards the end of my second pregnancy, I was mentioning to the doctors that I was, I'm pretty sure I probably ended up having gestational diabetes with my first pregnancy. And they basically said, like, you most likely did, yes. And I would mention the pockets of fluid, the size of him, how much weight gain I had, and they basically said, oh yeah, you probably definitely ended up having it with the first one. When you have gestational diabetes, when you go to have more pregnancies in the future, you will most likely have gestational diabetes with each pregnancy. With my second pregnancy, it sucked. It really, really sucked. I was looking at this diet plan thinking, oh my God, like, they want to starve me. Because I swear, like, you need to watch your carb intake. And I just thought, that's what I live off of. Like, I love carbs, right? So I was devastated. I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to starve to death. And sure enough, like, that is honestly how I felt. When you are diagnosed with gestational diabetes, you will be given a meal plan to follow for about a week or two. If your sugars are always high, whether it's the morning or lunchtime or whenever, that will determine whether or not you need insulin. After my second week of the diet plan, that's when I was told that the diet you're following isn't working and you're gonna have to go on insulin. I had to take a shot in the morning to my stomach and a shot again at night before I went to bed. So that sucked. That scared, that frightened me so bad. But once I was taught how to do it, and once I started doing it, it really wasn't that bad at all. So If you have gestational diabetes and you're worried about the insulin, I would just don't worry, because it really isn't that bad at all. It does not hurt. It's like the quickest little pop of like the tiniest little needle, and you're fine. You can hardly even feel it, to be honest. So I wouldn't worry about it. I did, and I worried for nothing because it's not that bad. Now fast forward to this pregnancy. Now, because I had the gestational diabetes with my second pregnancy, they wanted to send me early this time around for the glucose test. Now, like I said, you normally don't get it until around the 20 to the 24 week mark. This time I received it around, I think it was the 14th week mark, so about 10 weeks before you normally would have it anyway. I had that and I passed it. Woo woo. I was excited. I was like, sweet, that's good. After that, on the days that I could eat, I would try to eat as good as I could. And I remembered the gestational diabetes diet from the second pregnancy, and I would try to follow that to try to hopefully not have the gestational diabetes for this third pregnancy. Now, when, passing it the first time was giving me hopes that, oh, good, maybe I'll be able to pass it again once they test me again in like 10 weeks. Then I'll be clear sailing. But no, that's not what happened. I did eat pretty good. So then when the 20 to 24 week mark came up in this pregnancy, they sent me again, and I failed it. So because I failed that one, they wanted to send me for a 3-hour one. And I guess that's kind of normally what happens. If you have your first one around that 24 week mark and you fail it, they will send you for another one again, which will determine for sure if you're gestational diabetic or not. So I went to go for this 3-hour one. Now, you're not allowed to eat anything from the night before, like 12 hours before. So you don't eat before you go to bed or anything. You're not even allowed to have a drink of water, nothing. So I didn't have anything to eat. I was starving, still feeling nauseous at this point. So not even being able to try to eat something, that was just horrible as it was. So I go to the appointment, and when you go, they take your blood the second they get there, which is your fasting sugars. And then what they would do is give you a drink, a very, very sugary drink. You would wait an hour. They would take your blood again. Then I don't recall if they give you another drink or if they just wait an hour, another hour, then give you another drink. Then you wait another hour, and then they test it again. But regardless, you're there for 3 hours, and I think there's 2 drinks involved. But I got there, they tested my morning sugars, and within 20 minutes of that, I got my results back, and I was out the door because they were too high. So they determined that I had gestational diabetes, and I did not have to continue with the 3-hour test, which that's good, because I didn't want to have to sit at the hospital for 3 hours, because that would have sucked. I was kind of thinking, because I read that you can fail your first one and still pass your 3-hour one, so I was fingers crossed and hoping that that would have been my case, but it sure as hell wasn't. I definitely failed it. So a week later, I was once again visiting the dietitians for the gestational diabetes crap. But I will say, this time around, it has been the most easiest thing I have done. Like, it's not been difficult. I have been following the diet way better than before. I have been full feeling. I have been feeling great, and I do not need to be on insulin. Knock on wood, there is no need for it right now. And this has been like 10 weeks now since I've been diagnosed, or maybe a little bit less. I have been able to control it with diet alone. Now, I remember going to a doctor's appointment about a week to 2 weeks after being diagnosed with the gestational diabetes, and my doctor asking me, "Are you on your insulin now?" And I kind of looked at her and I was like, well, no, I'm still doing the 2-week meal plan thing first to see how my body's going with that. And I said, do you think where I was on the insulin last time, that I would most likely have to be on it again this time. And she basically said, yes, you will be. So I was kind of down about that, and I was like, well, that sucks. But I have not had the need to yet. I've been following my diet plan. I've been getting exercise in what I could, and my sugars have been the best ever. Well, I have never tested them any other time except for this pregnancy and last pregnancy. So compared to last pregnancy, my sugars are absolutely fabulous. It's going great, and there, as of right now, is no need for insulin. So that is fabulous, and I am excited. That is all of that information. Now, I do want to just show you the tools that I have to use. So here's the little thing. You open it up, and this is what you got. So you got your monitor here. These are your test strips in here. Open them up. You can see those bad boys in there. You take one of these out. You plop it in the top. You take this out. Now when you open it, this is your little finger pricker. You open the top up, and there is the needle. It is tiny, like so tiny. But I will be honest, it does hurt sometimes. This hurts worse than my insulin shot hurt sometimes. Now, you don't do it on the pads of your fingertips because that hurts the worst, it bleeds the most, and that's just not where you do it. You do it on the sides of your fingers. Now, I do it on like these sides. There are so many, I mean, you're not really gonna be able to tell, but you can see so many tiny little dots. So you go like that, pull, press the button, it quickly pricks it, get your sample of blood, and you end up putting it on your test strip that you will have in here, and then your number comes up there. And that's what you do. Super easy. Like I said, it does kind of hurt a little bit, but it is what it is. Anyway, so that is my experience with gestational diabetes. That is my update with the current situation of gestational diabetes. And to tell you the truth, I am glad that it's coming to an end. Like, this has been the easiest I've dealt with it. Like last pregnancy, like I said, it was hideous. I was so upset, and it was so much harder to deal with. This has been a breeze the second time around, but I will be so happy when it's over. I miss the indulgence of so many things. So once this pregnancy is done and everything is, taken care of down there, because this is the last baby that I'm having, I will hopefully no longer have to deal with diabetes. When you do have gestational diabetes, that does mean that you and your child are at a higher risk of developing type 1 or type 2. I forget if it's either or both, but you are at a higher risk of developing diabetes as you are older. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen. I mean, I don't have a terrible diet. I'd like to indulge in treats, but that's it. So anyway, before I keep rambling on, that's it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I will answer them as best as I can for you. If you're new to my channel, please familiarize yourself with my content. If you like what you see, then please go ahead and subscribe. And until next time, bye guys.